Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, SharePoint Document Management Made Easy. My name is Whitney Mahon, and I'm an account executive here at FMT Consultants, and I'm joined by Matilda Miller, one of FMT's senior SharePoint consultants. Before we dive into the good stuff, for those of you who aren't familiar with FMT, I'd like to take a few moments to give you a brief introduction of our company. So here at FMT, we have completed over 1,000 projects. We've been in business since 1995 and recently celebrated our 20th year anniversary. We are Southern California's leading provider of Microsoft integrated solutions and have over 280 clients, both in the United States and Canada. Our team has significantly grown over the years with currently close to 80 team members, both in Northern San Diego, here in Carlsbad, as well as Los Angeles. We do pride ourselves of our five core values: integrity, service excellence, collaboration, innovation, and passion. Here at FMT, we do believe in the FMT way. With the combination of talent, experience, and methodology, we are fully dedicated to the success of your company. While today we will be focusing on SharePoint, keep in mind that we also offer services pertaining to ERP, CRM, BI, and Office 365. Not only do we have extremely experienced consultants, but we also have a dedicated help desk that offer ongoing training and support after projects are completed. Here is a list of our some of the customers or clients that we get to work with on a regular basis. So we have Spy, Emerald Textiles, Sharp, Stone Brewing, and of course, one day we would like to add you to that list as well. Now I'm going to hand it over to Matilda, but before I do, if at any time during the presentation you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the comment box. I'll be monitoring it during the entire presentation and we will address them towards the end of the session. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to SharePoint Document Management Made Easy. My name is Matilda Miller, and I'm a senior SharePoint consultant here at FMT, specializing in enterprise content management. Thanks again for that introduction, Whitney. So today we'll be covering the SharePoint definition of document management, where we're going to review document storage and access, sharing and collaboration, security and permission settings, and finally accessing information on the go, where we will see the mobility SharePoint has to offer. So before we get started, I kind of want you all to think about your definition of document management. We all have a definition of it. So is this your definition where you are creating, filing, sharing? How are you sharing your documents? Are you guys emailing them back and forth? And how are you doing version control? How do you archive documents? How are you publishing these documents? Is anything automated? How are you recovering documents in the event that someone deletes something that they're not supposed to? Well, all of these questions I just asked are standard functionality in SharePoint. In addition to what is available on a file share, you can also automate processes, control versions, publish documents, archive, audit, and much more. Now, let's take a second to talk about governance. We cannot discuss document management without touching on governance. You need to establish rules for the appropriate usage of your SharePoint environments. SharePoint governance is the set of policies, rules, responsibilities, and processes that control how an organization's business divisions and IT team work together to achieve its goals. So looking at the image that I have on the screen here, you'll see that there are three areas of governance. Those areas are IT governance, which consists of software and services, information management, which is content and information stored by the users, and application management or custom solutions that you deploy into your system. Now, file shares. I know several of you are familiar with file shares. Now, oftentimes, file shares are referred to as being clunky, requiring too many clicks, and they're also very difficult to search. They also do not cater to mobile devices. and you must use a VPN to connect to these environments externally. I frequently work with clients that are migrating from file shares to SharePoints, and one of the biggest topics are search and filtering. How do I drill down to what it is that I want? The nested file structure in file shares makes that nearly impossible. SharePoint allows you to easily filter through content when a document is uploaded to SharePoint automatically. It populates the associated metadata with it. So you'll get the created by, modified, modified by, and most importantly, you'll get versioning, which allows you to track the changes to the document. Now, I see that my box is going a little crazy with questions here because I mentioned the word metadata. No worries, I'm going to walk you guys through it. So, what is metadata? What is Matilda talking about? So I take it that we've all shopped online before. So in the event that you have, great news, you've been using metadata this entire time, you just didn't know it. So say I was online shopping for a coat. So I browse to the site, I type in coat, and as you can imagine, I'd get pages and pages of results. So I would use the left panel to narrow down my results based on the criteria that I select. As you can see, I have the option to filter by, say, category, size, brand, gender. This is all metadata. So filtering in a file share is limited because you have to filter based on the predefined columns that are set there for you, and you can't set any custom preferences on them. Think about it for a second. What columns are available? You get name, you can get date, you can get modified, type maybe. Okay, so if I am in a folder and I find out the name of the document, so I can see the name of the document, I can see when it was last modified, and I can see the type. But who created this document? What version of this document am I looking at, and who modified it last? SharePoint allows you to define custom metadata properties and offers rich functionality for sorting and filtering your documents based on their metadata. So let's kind of talk about it in action. So say you're looking through project documents and you need the ability to filter based on document types used in your organization. Like for instance, my organization, we have document types like presentation, business requirements, and project plan. You want the ability to filter based on the owner as well to the document so that you can see what documents belong to who. Well, this is all feasible in SharePoint. So here is an image of a document library, and I went ahead and I filtered based on the document type, which is presentation here, and then I also filtered on the owners, which is myself. So let's go down the SharePoint journey here, and let's start off with storage and access. Now, storage and access in SharePoint makes it easy to maintain, search, and secure your company's content. So how do I get my stuff into SharePoint? Well, SharePoint has a variety of options for fast and easy uploading, including dragging and dropping documents from the Windows Explorer to SharePoint, copying and pasting using Windows Explorer, uploading directly in the browser, and by using the Office client. So the image on the screen that you see now is of the drag and drop functionality, which I will display to you later. Now, a little bit earlier, when we discussed metadata, we talked about filtering where you can sift through documents to get to the documents that you need. You remember when we talked about filtering by owner and document type? Well, sometimes you have a need to look at information that is pre-filtered. Say you're managing a portfolio of projects and project managers, and it would save time and effort if you had a view that showed the project managers and their associated projects with the documents that belong to the project. SharePoint has a feature called Views, which allows users to have multiple views of the same set of documents, a feature that is not possible in Windows file folders. For end users, visiting the view is just like visiting a web page. Administrators can define public views, which are accessible to all authenticated users, and private views accessible to select users only. So let's take a look at a file share. So this is a file share view, and it has the normal predefined columns. In order to create another view of these documents, I'd have to create a new folder and duplicate the documents based on the view that I wanted. Now, how would I create a view based on, say, project? Well, I can't do the custom columns here, so I'd have to create a folder and call it projects. And then inside of that folder, I'd have to create more folders for each project. Then I can copy and paste, and the documents in these folders and the green grass grows all around and around. SharePoint offers a much cleaner approach with the view feature, not to mention you get to keep up with the proper version. So this is a default view of all documents in a document library without any formatting, similar to the file share that we just looked at. Now, this is a view of the same set of documents that I created called by owner, where, as you can see, all of the documents are grouped by owner. Now, when I go to this library, the content that I need is pre-filtered, and I'm able to keep track of the proper version. So that brings me to revisions and version history, which is always a major issue in any organization, and you want to make sure that you're properly keeping track of edits to your documents. So how many of us are familiar with this image that I have on the screen, where we have a document and we keep track of versions inside of the document name? You know, that final document. Well, I'm currently working with a client who is migrating from a file share to SharePoint. And beyond this style of version history tracking, if you will, I took note of the amount of wasted storage from all of the duplicates, which translates into costs. Poor version history tracking will cause lost time for individuals who cannot find the copy that they need. It's also causing a loss of effort, storage, and money. So I'm certain that you envision a more productive way of utilizing your resources. Versioning features in SharePoint help you get rid of all those multiple copies of the same document. With versioning, there will always only be one file, and you will always have access to all previous versions in that version history. Now, the version history contains information about when an item or file has changed and who changed it. In the document libraries, the version history may also contain comments that people made about those changes. So now, SharePoint Search. So we've all used search engines before. Let's take Google, for instance. So you can go ahead to Google, you can type in what it is that you want, and then you can go ahead and filter the content there. So SharePoint Search offers all of that functionality with the added bonus that you get to personally customize it for your company's content. So we know that we can all go ahead and search inside the Windows File Explorer as well. So while you can do that, that search functionality inside of Windows is not as rich as the out-of-the-box SharePoint search capabilities. With SharePoint Search, you can easily locate documents based on search queries and refine and modify the search output through your custom metadata, just like we explained earlier. So all those documents that we talked about earlier, where you were tagging them with the metadata, remember when we talked about tagging it with document type, you can use that same metadata to refine your search results in SharePoint. Some added features with SharePoint is that without having to open the actual search results page, users can also quickly identify and access information through a wealth of shortcuts and intuitive links. So for example, users can hover the pointer over a search result to preview the document content in the hover panel, just to ensure that they're looking at the right content. Users can also quickly distinguish search results based on file type. And when searching for people, the result output will show the user's profile picture and the Skype for Business, which is previously linked, availability next to the profile picture. SharePoint Search also helps users quickly return to important sites and documents by storing and displaying recent searches and recently viewed documents. Now, I know we covered a lot of content inside of document and storage access, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of it in action. Okay, so here I have a public document library here. So let's go ahead and review and talk about some of that metadata that we mentioned earlier. So here, like the name, modified by, this is the standard metadata that comes through with SharePoint. Now, I went ahead and I created custom metadata columns. I created document type, and it has those options that we talked about, the business requirements, presentation, and the project plan. I also went ahead and I created an owners column, and I have this group of owners here. So just to give you an idea of how quickly you can go ahead and create those columns, let's go ahead and create one. So I'm going to go up here to what's called the ribbon, and I'm going to click on create column. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it the name. We can just call it demo column. That's fine. And as you see here, I have several options for what kind of content I'd like inside of the column. I could do a single line of text. I could do multiple lines of text. I could do choice, number, and all the various options that you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select choice because I want my user to have specific options. So once I selected choice, you'll see in this area here that I'm able to go ahead and place my choices in. So just for this, I'm just going to choose option 1, option 2, and option 3. Uh-oh, forgot the 3. So I have these options here now, and I also have the ability to display choices. I could tell it to show it as a drop-down menu, a radio button, or check boxes to allow multiple selections. So I'm going to select check boxes and allow multiple selections. Now, the default value here is always the first item that you have in this column. If you want it to be something different, of course, you can go ahead and change it. But I'm just going to leave it as default option 1. So I'm going to click OK. And the column is going to generate. So now we have to do what's called tagging. So we're going to tag the metadata to the documents. Now, I could come in here and I could essentially go one by one and edit the properties of the document and then add the demo column content that I wanted. But I'm going to do some mass editing. So I'm going to go back up in the ribbon and I'm going to use what's called quick edit. So I click on quick edit, and it works similar to an Excel spreadsheet. So I can come here, I can select my drop down, I can select multiple options since we gave ourselves that option here. And instead of doing it in each line, if something else has the exact same option, I can go ahead and I can drag it. So SharePoint will drag that content for me. So I'm just going to add option 1 here and just drag it the rest of the way down. Okay, so it's here, and we're going to wait over here while SharePoint goes ahead and saves the content. And then once it's saved, you can stop editing, and you'll see all of that tagging is actually there. So now we can get into views a little bit. So earlier we talked about the by owner view. So this is the actual by owner view that's here. And as you see, all of these things are grouped by owner. I also have the option to close or open them just based on my preferences. I also created a second view here, and that view is called by project. So what I did here was group twice. So first I had it group by project, and then I had it group by document type. Now up here, you'll see you'll also get a count of how many documents are inside of this grouping. So it's a total of 3. So this is project 365. It has 1 document type, which is presentation, and there are 3 documents. Now, creating a view. Creating a view is also fairly simple. So I could either come here and I could select create view, or I could also go to the ribbon and I can go ahead and create a view. So let's create a view really quickly. So I'm going to create a view from an existing one. So I'm going to select all documents. Now, when you create a view from an existing view, what that does is give you the same columns visible as you have in the one that you're creating from. So I'm just going to call this one demo type. So I have that name here. I have all of the columns that I need here. I could also add more if I wanted to. So say I wanted to add created, I can just add the created column. I can also order how I want things to go. Now here, view audience. Remember we said we could have a personal view or a public view. Well, I want everyone to see this, so I'm going to make this one a public view. And I'm going to come down here. So in this particular view, I'm going to filter. So I'm going to say, okay, only show me items in this view where the owner is myself. Now, I have 2 options here. Now, I can go ahead and I can say the owner needs to be me, Matilda Miller. So what happens if I meet the man of my dreams tomorrow and I go ahead and get married? Then my last name is going to change. If that happens, then the system won't be able to find me. So I can use this functionality here, which is called me. So when I use the me functionality, it just says, okay, give me all users, or give me the user that's logged in. So now, regardless of any name changes, it'll always know to pull all of my information. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, so you see here you have the view where all of the owners are myself, and creating a view was relatively quick. Whitney, do we have any questions right now while I'm going?
Greg did ask, how do you add the document type to the document? I believe the example that you showed with the demo column is fairly similar.
Oh, yes. Yes.
If you want to repeat the question, I don't think you do.
Oh, sure. So, okay, so how do you add the document type to the document? Okay, so I'm imagining, how are you saying you create the column? So it's just the same way we created that column earlier, where we went ahead and we created the demo column, and then we went inside and we added the options. Now, when you're adding it to the document, I imagine you're talking about the tagging. So you can use one of those two options. So you can go inside of the quick edit, and then you can come over to, say, the document type here, and you can go ahead and change it the way that you want. And then you can just go ahead and stop editing. So that would effectively change the document type. Okay, now give me a second here, guys. I'm going to set up so that we can review search. Okay, I'm almost there. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, now with search, it's just important to show the functionality where you can see the individuals linked to the system. So I'm just logging into the link system where the link is attached to the SharePoint environment. Okay, so we're here in an environment now where the link is attached to the system, and we can actually see the availability of individuals in the system. So just like that other view that we saw, we have custom metadata here. So we have that document type column, and we also have this area here, which is a client column. So when I'm searching inside of SharePoint, I want the ability to go ahead and refine and narrow down my results. So I'm just going to type in just David in this top right hand search area over here. So I'm going to go ahead and search it. And search is going to go ahead and retrieve all of the documents that contain the word or the name David. As you see here, I'm getting about 3,000 results. So here, when I have 3,000 results, I want the ability to narrow down. So all of that metadata that we talked about in that last screen has actually become what's called in SharePoint refiners. So that client column is now a refiner here, and I can go ahead and refine these results based on client, as well as the document type that is also refiners here now. So I can go ahead and narrow down. So I can click on one, and I went from 3,000 results to 2 results really quickly. Okay. So now that I've done that, I can also make sure I'm looking at the right thing. So I can hover over here and I get a preview of the document. I can even click through the document if I want to see what's in here before I make this my selection. I can also see the last person that changed it. I can see that it was changed by David. I know the date it was changed. And I can go ahead and hover over David and say I need to ask him a quick question. I can get all of his information. I can schedule a meeting with him if I need to. I can send him an email if I need to. Now, inside of this form, I can also go directly to the library to see everything else that's contained there. So now that we have that part done, let's say that this is not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a client a specific client or document type. Say I don't want to search everything for David. I could also go ahead and search people. So now let's see who this David person is. So now I get every David that's within my company, and I can look at the image because it's filled out, and I can say, okay, this is the David that I want to talk to. I can also see what groups he is a member of. I can see what documents he's authored, and I can also view his profile. I could also check conversations for David. So I can check every conversation that David has had inside of SharePoint. So I can go ahead and take a look at these as well as any videos that he's posted. So that's just me going through the different result sources to see how I want to contact David. Are there any questions on search right now?
Greg had a follow-up question.
Sure.
Said, I mean, while you are working with Word, where is that added when you save a new document? The document type.
Oh, okay. So those document types are custom. So those are document types that I created based on my company's needs. So you would create your own specific document type. So once that's there and you upload a document, you get to go ahead and change what's visible on that document.
And then John asks, are those AD Active Directory groups or SharePoint groups?
Those are, okay, so SharePoint is linked with Active Directory. That's how you recognize who a user is. So when I'm looking for David, that's how it's finding David. It's coming from Active Directory.
One more follow-up from Greg. So you have to change it after it has been saved, not while you do your first save of a new document.
Okay, so when you do your first save of a document, if you're uploading one at a time, what happens is, okay, what happens is you get an initial screen of what the document's going to have on it. So it asks for that initial metadata, and you go ahead and tag it once it's uploaded. I can demo that to you. Give me 2 seconds. I understand what he's asking. Okay, so here, all right, so when you initially upload a document, so if I'm uploading here, I can go ahead and browse for a document, and let's just say I select this one. So I'm going to open it, and while it's here, I have several different options here. So the document type is here, and then I would go ahead and select which document type I wanted to add to the document. Okay, I'm going to go ahead back to the presentation at this time, and we're going to move on to sharing and collaboration. Okay, so sharing and collaboration. So inside of SharePoint, you can also easily collaborate with the rest of your team members without attaching physical documents to emails and things of that nature. You can go ahead and send a direct link to an email, which also helps with your versioning process. So does any of this sound familiar? Where you guys are emailing coworkers a document for review, then they add and send feedback as well as their edits. With this going on 3 or 4 different times, you have to manually consolidate all of the comments and changes that are happening to the document. It sounds a bit time consuming. There's a much smarter way of handling document reviews and changes. With the Microsoft SharePoint site, you can save your Word file or any file. As you guys just saw, I also saved some images up there directly to your SharePoint document library. Then use the built-in SharePoint commands to let your coworkers read and edit the file. So you're going to be eliminating all those file piles, and you only have one copy with everyone's consolidated feedback. In addition, SharePoint comes with versioning that allows you to keep track of those versions and edits. and with easy to manage permissions. You can also control exactly what your coworkers are allowed to do with the file. So you can determine whether or not they're going to be editing these files that you're sharing with them to review, or they're just going to be reading them. Now, SharePoint also has co-authoring. Now, with this feature here, it allows you to simultaneously edit documents. So say you have two separate departments, maybe accounting and legal, and both of you guys have a need to work on the document at the same time. Co-authoring will allow both of you to be in two separate sections of the document. Editing, there'll also be flags there so that no one's overriding each other. So accounting would have a flag and that individual would be in one section, and it would also give it a color, and the same thing would happen for the legal section. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so the sharing functionality. So with the sharing functionality, you can go ahead and I can click here and I can say, okay, I want to share this content. Of course, after I preview it and make sure this is the content that I want, I can go ahead and share this content with someone inside of my organization. So I can go ahead and I can share it with Dave, and I can tell him he can edit the document or view the document. So I can also place my notes here, and I can tell them to go ahead and please review the document. I have the option to go ahead and send an email invitation. So once I click share on this document, an email is sent to me as a receipt, knowing that letting me know that I shared this document with someone else. This person would receive an email. They'd also receive my notes in the body of that email and a link to the document that I want to share it with them. Okay. Now, also a little bit earlier, we talked about that versioning history piece, and we kind of didn't review that. So let's review that now. So every time you upload a document to SharePoint, you get a version. Let me show you what I mean. So inside this library, I'm just going to go ahead and modify the view so that you can see the version count. So I'm going to click here for version and click OK, and you can see the versions of the document. So you'll see the 1.1s, which means that there was a minor change to a document. And anytime you see a solid number change, like a 1.0 or a 2.0, that's a major change to a document. So inside of this document, I can go ahead and I can see the version history. So if I click here on the ellipsis, I can go down and I can say, okay, show me the version history. So inside of the version history, I get, of course, the number of versions that there are. I get the date that the version was modified. I get to see what metadata changes happened with the document, as well as who modified it, the size of it, and any comments here if people were leaving comments for the document. Now, while I'm in here, I also have the option to revert back. So say someone made a change to a document that they didn't need to make, and so we needed to get back to that older version. I can come here and I can say, I can unpublish, I can restore, or I can view it to see what happened. And I can also do the same here. So when you hit restore, that's the reverting back, and it will revert back to that previous version for you.
So Todd asks, with respect to versioning, can you upload an email attachment directly to SharePoint as a new major or minor version, or do I have to save locally, check out SharePoint document, and then save as a new version?
Okay, are you asking to send a link or to send the physical document attachment?
Looks like it's a physical.
Okay, so in order to send a physical, you have a few options here. So if you're going to send a physical document, which I would only do if I was sending into, say, an external client, because when you do that physical change, you're actually taking it out of SharePoint and you're going to be losing that version history. If you do that, you're just going to get that latest version, and if any changes happen, it's going to miss it in that email. But you could download it and then attach it, or you could use the the File Explorer and it just copy over. So you could open with Explorer, it'll look just like your regular Explorer.
Can I add on a question to that?
You can.
Carol asks, can you share with someone outside the organization?
Absolutely. You can share with someone outside of the organization. So when you share with people outside of the organization, SharePoint's just going to give you a notification that lets you know, okay, this person is outside of the organization. Do you still want to share it? But as long as you're configured to do that and your company doesn't have that locked down, you absolutely can. Was there another question?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and move over. Okay, so we're going to talk about security and permissions next. So let's get that started. So security and permissions in SharePoint. So that's always a big issue whenever I'm talking to a company. They want to make sure that their content is secured. So let's take a second to go ahead and review that. So SharePoint allows you to implement security at 4 levels. You can implement it at the site collection level, the subsite level, the document library level, as well as the item level. Now, the site collection is a security boundary in SharePoint, and everything under that inherits those permissions by default. SharePoint uses security trimming features, which means that the end users don't see content that they do not have access to. Search results are also security trimmed, so you never have to worry about someone going into search and being able to see content that they're not authorized to. Now let's go over basic user security here. So basic user security consists of 5 parts. So the first is authentication and authorization. So authentication identifies the user, and authorization determines what that user is allowed to do. So for instance, I use a key fob every morning when I come into work. So when I scan the key fob into the system, it identifies me as Matilda and determines whether or not I'm authorized to open the door. The next is user permissions. So user permissions can be identified as CRUD, and I'm not talking about that stuff that gets on the bottom of your shoe, but I'm talking about that acronym CRUD, which stands for create, read, update, and delete, which are the permission levels that you would be assigning your users. Now, earlier someone brought up Active Directory. Active Directory syncs with SharePoint, and that's what's used to identify your users inside of SharePoint. Now, SharePoint groups. Groups are used when you have a cluster of people who require the same level of permissions. Instead of adding the same permissions for multiple people, you would put them in a group. So by default, when you create a site within SharePoint, it has 3 groups. It has an owners group that has full control of the site. It has a members group that's allowed to contribute, and it has a visitors group that's allowed to read content. Now, best practice when you are applying permissions inside of SharePoint, you always want to try to apply permissions to a group. So just think about it for a second. So if I have a document library and individuals have the same level of permissions to the library, would you rather have to add each person with those permissions, or have them all lumped inside of a group and just add permissions one time? So the best choice of action is always to just add the permissions one time. It makes it much easier to keep a hold on security. Now, the next part of basic user security is inheritance. So just like on the previous slide, when you create a site, all sites below it have the same permissions as the parent site by default, unless you break these permissions. Now, there will be some instances where you would want to break permissions. Let's say you have a site and then you create a sub-site for human resources. Now, you wouldn't want this. You wouldn't want everyone in the company having the same access to all of the human resources content or all of the accounting content. So in that instance, you might want to break permissions and make changes as to who can see what. Now, SharePoint and accessing information on the go. SharePoint provides anywhere, anytime access. So what that means is that you're able to use SharePoint no matter where you are, whether you're online, whether you're offline. It's accessible on your mobile phone, it's accessible on a tablet, and there's never a VPN required. As long as you have your login, you are perfectly fine. In any event that you are offline, and this has actually happened to me before, so I was dealing with a defense contractor, and they have extremely tight security on their premise. So when I was there, I was actually not able to get online and log into my system. So I used the functionality that SharePoint has, which is sync, which allows you to sync your documents while you're offline. And what happens is when you do that, you have the ability to still interact with your documents. And then once you're back in an environment where you have internet access, you are able to go ahead and upload your changes. This happens automatically. You don't have to do it. So say, for instance, you're on a long flight or you don't have internet access, but there's a document that you need to access and modify. Syncing would be the perfect solution. You have the ability to go ahead and sync your SharePoint files to your local machine, access them and make edits, and then SharePoint is going to, of course, automatically upload any changes that you have as soon as you're back to having internet access. So we can go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so give me 2 seconds here, and we're gonna just go ahead and go through an actual sync so you can see how quickly that happens. All right, give me 2 seconds, guys. Okay, it's starting to come up now. Okay, so syncing with your local file share. All right. Alrighty. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to that public documents library that we were in previously. And we can go ahead and sync. So as you see up here, there's an icon here for sync. So you can just click on the sync here and tell it to sync now. It's going to take a second. It's coming up. And you'll get the OneDrive connecting. All right, so it's going to give you some information here. So it's letting you know that this is the site that you are syncing from here. And it's also going to let you know where you're going to find your document. So here it's telling me it's going to find it under favorites in my window explorer, and we'll save the document here. So I'll just make note that it's going to be under C users and Miller, and I'm just going to tell it to sync now. All right, so it's telling me where my files are. So I'm going to tell it to show me my files. All right, and it comes up. So you'll see here that I have the sync icon and the green check mark here. It lets me know that I'm currently synced and it's up to date. So the syncing took place relatively in a matter of seconds there. All right, so now we can go ahead and go through any more questions that anyone had.
Yeah, so it looks like we have a question in regards to the syncing. So
Okay.
can you sync selective folders or is it the whole site?
It syncs the entire library. So any documents that are in that library, it's going to go ahead and sync. In the newer version, in the 2016 version, I believe they're adding that functionality where you can go ahead and determine what items you want to sync. But what I typically do is after I sync an entire library, I just do it in the reverse way. So after I sync an entire library, I can just go back in and just delete out any content that I don't want in my local machine. But initially, it's going to sync everything.
All right, then Amy asks, communications, can you auto email reports?
Yes, you can. So you can set up what's called a subscription. So you can go into SharePoint, and once you have a report library set up, you can set up a subscription, and then you can tell it what parties you want to email and how frequently you want the email to go out.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. Todd asks, how does SharePoint and OneDrive for Business work together with respect to document management and syncing?
Okay, so OneDrive. So OneDrive kind of works in two ways with SharePoint. So we have that syncing functionality that I just showed, where OneDrive and Sync work together so that you can access your documents when you don't have access to the internet. Also, OneDrive is used for my sites. So inside of SharePoint. So remember when I went ahead and I looked up David, he also has a site. So every user has what's called a My Site. And OneDrive is used there so that you can store personal documents.
Cool. Greg is asking if he could see again how you can save a brand new Word document and add the metadata during the save.
Sure thing. I can do that for you, Greg. Alrighty. So give me 2 seconds here. All right. So we're gonna add a new document. So we can upload here. So there's one option if you want to upload one by one. So let's come here and I just need a document. Need a document for you. I'm just going to add this document here. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to click OK here. So when you do it here, you'll see that the document type is no longer here. Is not there because I haven't selected any, and owners is not here because I haven't selected any. So I can come here and I have two options here. So I can go up here to the file and I can go to edit properties if I want to. And then I can go here. I can make the document type what I want. I can make myself an owner of the document, and I can give it a project name if I want to. And I can also select the demo column. So I can go ahead and hit save. And then you see that the document type information is here. I can also do that other method that we talked about earlier where we do it inside of the quick edit. So inside of the quick edit, I could have also come here and added any metadata that I wanted to.
Okay, so it actually looks like Greg is asking if he's in Word, so not in SharePoint, and he hits save. Is there any way there that you can add metadata there?
Oh, if you're actually in a Word document. So you have to save that document to SharePoint in order to add the metadata to it.
Okay. Carol asks, with sharing and collaborating, users must always check out and check in documents in order for SharePoint to track versions, correct?
No, that is actually not true. So you can track versions without having the check-in, check-out functionality there. The only time, the main reason people use the check-in, check-out functionality is that they don't want anyone else altering the document while they're altering it. So that's essentially why that's used, but you do not have to do that in order to track versions.
All right. Next question. Any kind of workflow management, question mark, other than the email subscription. Oh, other than the email subscription. So when When an SLA template has been uploaded, it is sent to the manager for approval.
Okay.
Any kind of moderation on the editing changes.
Are you talking about creating, if you're talking about creating your own custom workflow, you can do that. You can create custom workflows in Designer, or you can go ahead and use the out-of-the-box workflows that SharePoint has. So yes, there are more workflow functionalities than email subscriptions. That actually wouldn't count as a workflow at all, the email subscriptions.
Awesome. Could you set up an automated rule that sends out a notification to certain users when a new file is uploaded to SharePoint?
Absolutely. So for that, you would use what's called notifications. So up here in the ribbon, you'll see this option here that says alert me. So here under alert me, you can set an alert here on the library, and you can tell it who to send alerts to. So you can always set up those notifications. That's fairly simple.
Awesome. Do you have a sample of the workflow?
Not that I can show at this time.
Okay.
But I can definitely reach back out to you and we can review some workflow options.
And just so everyone on the line knows, we will be reaching out to all of the attendees tomorrow. So if you have any follow-up questions, or if you want to see any personalized demos or any of the functionality that you saw today, or any additional functionality, we can definitely get that set up on a more personal one-on-one level, in case you guys are wondering. Another question, is it required to install Office 365 on your iPad to access the SharePoint site?
No, you do not have to do that. You just need access to a browser. That's all you need.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for all of these great questions, and for Matilda for providing all of this great information. We do have about 9 more minutes left on the session, so if you guys have any other additional questions, feel free to type them in. But as I mentioned, if you require, viewing any additional functionality, or if you have any more company, personal questions, we'll be reaching out to all of the attendees tomorrow, and you can definitely set up meetings with your account reps or with someone on the SharePoint team. But we can give it a couple more minutes to let anyone out there go ahead and type in your questions. All right, we got another question in. Can I move a document into a new library and still maintain its version history from the old location to the new location?
That's a good question. Yes, you can do that. So in order to have that done, you just have to use the Open with Explorer functionality. So Open with Explorer, what it does is it opens up the Explorer window that you're used to inside of a regular Explorer on your system. So it kind of looks similar to a regular file explorer. So it would look just like this. And then you would have access to the documents, and then you could just copy it and then just drag it over to the new library that you wanted. That way you could still keep track of the version history, because essentially it's never leaving SharePoint, so all of the content that's tied to it follows with it.
This is the letter part. Okay, so next question. So Matilda, are you able to show from Word when you hit save to a site where you can add metadata, or do you have to save to SharePoint, then go in the web interface, to add the metadata?
Oh, to add the metadata. Okay. Hold on for a second. I'll show you what you can do. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I'll go ahead and I will go from start to finish on some dragging, so you can kind of get an idea of how that works. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just start with a Word document. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull one up for you. Okay, so right here, just so you guys can see what I'm doing here. All right, so I'm just going to call this one, say, new Word doc. All right, so I want to go ahead and I want to save this document. So I have the option to save it. As you see here, recent SharePoint sites do come up in the event that I want to use them. But just for the purpose of this, I'm just going to save it to my document. So I can go to computer here and we can just save it to my documents. And I'm just going to keep the name new Word doc. So I have this saved now, right? So let's go ahead and close it. So I'm here inside of SharePoint. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the upload button here, or I could drag it. But if you drag it, you will be making those changes in the quick edit or directly inside of the file there. Oh, that one I didn't save directly to SharePoint because I did it outside of it. But if I wanted to, I could just go ahead and click a new button, the new button here. I can click on new Word document and it'll go ahead and open up in the browser. So let's say I'm here and I want to open it up in the browser. So I can just hit new doc right there. And if you see down at the bottom, you'll see that I get the notification that it's saving. So it's saved. I know that the content is saved now, and I'm just going to go ahead back to my site. And I can refresh my screen and you'll see the new document there. And you'll see it right here. It's just document because I haven't named it. Here I can just use a quick edit like I did before, and I can just go ahead inside of here and add whatever metadata it is that I want to add. Does that answer your question out there? Not really. Okay, Greg, I'm not understanding. Yeah, we can take it offline, Greg. I'm not getting a clear understanding of what you're saying. I'll be glad to give you a call and we can kind of go through what it is that you're trying to cover here. Just let me know if that's okay. No problem, Greg. I'll give you a call as soon as we close out this webinar. Oh, okay. I can see another question in the box here. Yeah, I can do one more question before you wrap up. It's saying, how do I remove the title field from the list? Okay, so I do get asked that question a lot, actually. So as you see, the title field isn't here, but when we do the editing on any of the documents, you'll see that it's actually listed there. So here inside this library, you'll see the title field is actually here, and then every time you upload a document, that title field is going to appear. I guess this person wants to get rid of it. So this is what happens with the title field. So even though it's not visible here, it's still showing up in the edit form. That's because it's a part of the document content type. So to get rid of it, you have to go inside of the library settings here. And then you can click on the document content type. And here you'll see title, and it's optional. So to get rid of it, you just click on title here, and then you tell it, make it hidden. So that way it will not appear in forms. And then once you hit OK, it's going to go ahead and hide that content for you. So now when I go back to the document, so say I go back here and I look at the edit properties, the title area is no longer visible. Okay, guys, I'm going to hand it back over to Whitney now.
Thank you, Matilda. That was great. If you want to take us back to the front, or the end, um, so we can share out both of our email addresses if you have any additional questions today or later this afternoon. Please let us know. Please feel free to reach out directly. If not, we will be reaching out to all of you tomorrow. You should be hearing from a representative here at FMT. But other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars and future events. Thanks, everyone.